Hello, everybody. Hi, guys. Hi, Adam. Hi, Raj. You okay?
Hi,
Hi.
Stephanie.
How are you?
Um, in a state of flux is probably the answer to that question.
Oh, okay. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. Um, I think when we last spoke, I was working, but my contract ended, so looking for something else at the moment. It's been tough. I won't lie.
That's a problem, and I think it's self-employment. It has its perks, but gosh, it's bloody hard. It's really hard. So I wish you all the best with that
Well, the
then.
thing is, yeah, no, I'm looking to. Well, the frustrating thing was I was trying to get compliant because I wanted to do sourcing.
Okay.
I don't know if we spoke last time when you were doing your leadership course, and the only thing is, I was saving that money up for that, and then my contract ended. So
I
I
see.
am going to be still continue to become compliant, but it might take a little bit longer
Yeah.
to that. But yeah, I'm really glad to be on this webinar, because it's something to do with communication skills, which I need to improve.
Well, there's communication, and just say hello to Adam and Darren as well. Hi, guys. Communication. Oh my God, it's a whole I could talk for weeks and weeks on the subject. It's a skill. It's something that we constantly have to practice and refine. And so this is literally going to be just like the tip of the iceberg. So I'm going to just make a start. I'll let people in if they come, but this is being recorded anyway. So if you have to dip out, if you have to leave, please do feel free to pop back in. Hi. Oh, everyone's saying hello. Please feel free to go back onto the platform and watch the recording. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat, or just there's only a few of us, feel free to unmute and interrupt. It's not a problem at all. So this is about a half-hour sort of session. I don't like to do full hours because I like to make it neurodiverse friendly, guys, because I also have ADHD. And I find it very hard to stay focused for long.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong
No,
with that.
definitely not. And I do think that's why I have been as successful as I am, whatever success looks like. And I think that's just the way my brain is. So we're going to look at today a communication skill or a conversational skill that you can control. So this is, I would say, I put there, it's a bit of a sell there, the number one skill to help you raise private finance. So if you're looking to build a property business, this is one of the skills that I use to get talking about property, because sometimes I feel like, for me, especially at the beginning when I started about 5 years ago, I had a bit of a cringe, bit of an ick, and I don't really know how to start talking about property to people, because really, if we want to scale and we want to buy properties, I don't want to say en masse, but if we want to scale up and we want to use other people's money to do it, which is how I've built most of my portfolio, we have to be talking about it. Everybody in our orbit needs to know what we're doing, but how do we do that? So that's what we're going to go through today. It's a very straightforward conversational skill. Just by way of advertisement, if you tune in on Monday, I'm going to also be talking about how to market your business, how to market specifically a property business, but you can actually apply this to other things. It doesn't have to be, marketing your business to buy houses. This might actually come in handy if you are doing other things. I want to say that I'm a bit of a polymath. So I'm somebody that delves into detail in lots of different areas, and I like to sort of become a bit of, I don't want to call myself an expert because I don't believe anyone is ever an expert in anything, but I do have qualifications in digital marketing as well. It's something that I wanted to upskill on when I started my business 5 years ago. And marketing your business, I can attribute angel finance to this. So please do tune in on Monday. And then if you tune in the following Monday, we're going to do another communication that sells session. If I could actually spell, there we go. It's not good for an English teacher, that is it. And I want you to come along on the 25th as well. And I'm going to give you an exact framework for handling objections. So if you are ever in a situation where you are speaking to a potential investor, to invest in your business so that you can buy houses and scale. I'm going to give you a framework for handling the objections. So when you're in that conversation with the angel, potential investor, whoever that might be, friend, family, somebody that you've met at a networking event who wants to loan and invest in your business, if they have some objections, how to handle that as well. And I want to note here that I have always landed an angel investor. I have never not landed an angel. So I'm going to give you a framework for this as well. So just a little bit about me, so you know that you're in good hands. I have been in the education sector as a secondary English teacher for 15 years ago I started now. I was in the secondary education sector for 13 years. I was a secondary English teacher. That's amazing. Yeah, feel free to join, Rajesh. They're all on the platform. Fantastic. So I was in education for 13 years. I was teaching, but I was also responsible for literacy, effective teaching and learning for 1,300 students and worked with 200 staff. So it was a big responsibility. That's when I thought, I've got something transferable here, being in educational leadership. And that's when I started my leadership practice in 2020. I have built a great portfolio of buy-to-let, social housing and serviced accommodation in the last 5 years. And I deliver courses in property, leadership and social media. So you are in very good hands with me. And I am actually working on at the moment a full course, property fundamentals combined with social media, marketing your business like a professional, how to use the different platforms, including LinkedIn. I really don't think any other platform is as important as LinkedIn, and also leadership. So all of the three things combined into a full course. And I'm also almost finished on the Leadership Launchpad course. It's been a little bit delayed due to personal circumstances, family members not being quite well and so on. So the Leadership Launchpad is almost ready. And this is specifically for people in business, property investors. And this course is 500 quid. It's self-paced, and you can have some live Zooms with me as well. And the first 10 people on this get a 30-minute one-to-one with me, which is worth about 150 quid. So, feel free.
Sorry, yeah, I remember you speaking about this last time I was on there. When is the launch date for this? Because you said it was a bit delayed.
It was delayed. Yeah. I've only got to finish and record. The whole course is written. I'll level with you. The whole course is written. It's just the last stage 3, I need to record now. And being a perfectionist that I am, I end up recording it, watching it back and going, no, let's do it again. But it'll be done within the next couple of weeks, basically. And I will put this on the platform. I'll get everybody alerted.
Can you send me that, Stephanie? Because I might be interested this time. In that course then, because I think when we spoke last time, you were looking to launch, I think it was January, but like you said, it's been delayed. I think but that would be something that, because especially the last part, the negotiating skills and the networking, I'm not saying I'm an expert, but that part would definitely help with me, and even actually the first part as well, because sometimes I'm not aware of not what's happening, but I need to raise my level of awareness. So that might be if you can, because I may be able to have the funds for that this time around. But I didn't want to interrupt. Go and carry on.
No, not at all. Thank you. Yeah, it was delayed. Basically, we've got 2 family members who are like extremely poorly. One family member's terminal. So
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry to hear that. I hope they get better.
Thank you so much. So yeah, it's coming. It's ironic. I'm launching leadership, and sometimes I can't manage my own diary very well, but these things happen. So yeah, this is going on near enough at the end of March. It'll be completed. There'll be a full downloadable PDF workbook, not just in PDF, and a Word document as well. So it's completely editable, and it is fully accredited as well. This is accredited CPD. You can get a certification at the end of it, and it can go on your CV as well. So it's not just some rocking up with some courses claiming that it can change your life. This is actually accredited, and I am fully qualified anyway. So yeah, it's good CPD.
No, no, I'm looking for something like this. I'm because I've done a lot of property courses as it is, but I'm looking for something that it raises my awareness and my thinking as well. So yeah, no, I'd be interested, definitely.
Fab, thank you. Yeah, it's coming out soon. Brilliant. Okay, so let's get going then. So again, if anyone's got any questions, just interrupt. Again, it's about a half-hour session. So I want to start with this quote by Paul J. Mayer. And he was considered a pioneer. I really do like him. He was considered a pioneer in the self-improvement industry. And he said this: communication, the human connection, is key to personal and career success. And I want you to think about this as we're going along. The message that's sent, the messages that you send aren't always the same as the messages that are received by the person you are sending them to. And this is why it's important to develop our emotional intelligence in order to be a successful communicator. And this is something that we do talk about in stage 1, the self-awareness on the Leadership Launchpad course. But if you wanted a bit more information on developing that, I would highly recommend any books by a guy called Daniel Goleman. He talks a lot about emotional intelligence. Obviously, if you want a shortcut, you guys can do my course. But communication, I should sell myself better, shouldn't I? It's the key to personal and career success. So I want to point out the self-awareness of your communication is vital, and it's not just about talking. Okay, so thanks, Darren, no problem at all. So what is communication? So there are different ways in which we can communicate. And when we're thinking about property, we can't, and our property businesses, we can't just be thinking about the way that we are speaking to people. Okay, we've got very many different ways in which we communicate. So whatever it is you want to sell, in this instance, it might be an awareness of your property business, could be a suggestion that you do property, you never know where it's going to lead. The end result will depend on how, will prove how effective your communication actually was. And you won't see the results of good communication immediately, okay? And remember, anything to do with property, whether we're buying houses, whether we're sourcing properties on, whether we're in management, anything to do with business, okay? The work that you do now will have a really good return on investment in the future. It's about sowing seeds now so that the trees bloom or the flowers bloom later. So it might be we start talking about property or our businesses, and then it might be that someone who you know and knows what you do actually then tells another person, oh, I know Steph buys houses, you want to speak to Steph. Oh, I know Steph uses other people's money to buy houses and she gives you better returns than the bank. Or, oh, I know Steph, she takes rundown houses and makes them pretty again. Oh, Steph buys houses for cash fast. Did you know that? Because the more I communicate about what I do, the more seeds I sow, the more people that are going to go out there and also talk about me. So it's not just about communicating with one person about what you do. It's about communicating with them so that they go out and talk about you. It's about having people talking about you. And you'll see the results of this the more you communicate with people about what you do. So even if you're at this age now, you're thinking, oh, like Rajesh, you said, I'm waiting to get compliant, or maybe you're still waiting to get your first property or whatever, still be talking about everything that you do to everybody that you meet. So different ways, and I could go into this for hours, but I'm just going to give you a crash course very, very briefly.
Is that sorry, Stephanie, is that covered in your leadership launchpad, the communication?
Yes, so so conscious communication.
Oh yes.
I do talk about this on a deeper level, but again, when I say a deeper level, it's, you could go further and further with it.
Yeah.
Very
No,
far.
that's fine. I just wanted to check. Thank you.
Absolutely, yes. It's about being conscious in the way you communicate, and this part of this is in that course as well. So there are different ways in which we communicate. Obviously, we've got the verbal there. When we have verbal suggestions, verbal suggestions create expectations for whoever you are selling to. And whilst we don't want to be too salesy, everything is a sell. Everything is a sell in property. And when we are verbal in our communication, we've got the spoken, we've got the implicit versus the explicit. Those verbal suggestions influence somebody's pattern of thinking. Okay, the style of your speech as well influences somebody. So my style of speech, sometimes I'm quite casual, okay, and I found my casual style of speaking is always like the best sell. But some people can be quite informative, factual, didactic, persuasive. Then you have the non-verbal, that's your facial expressions, your body language, your gestures, the way you stand, the way you sit, you know, the way that you make eye contact or lack of eye contact with people. And it's all of the non-verbal that emphasizes that verbal communication, very much like me right now, because I'm trying to emphasize everything I'm saying. And it's important to say that even with silence, you can still communicate. One thing I would say as well with regards to potential angels or anybody you are selling anything to, even if you're just selling an idea, never underestimate the power of a smile, because even though you want to be businesslike and you want to be, get a deal done, smiles break barriers and they relax people. Mimicking people as well really gets people on side and they begin to trust you. So if they are sat sort of maybe like this, then I would not straight away, because you don't want to look odd. I would also do what they're doing, okay? No matter how they're doing it, I would mirror them in whatever they're doing, because what that does is they begin to trust you. You get them on side. It breaks down that barrier. And if it's somebody that is potentially going to invest in your business, invest in you, and loan you money for a high return, you know, they need to be able to trust you, and it just breaks down that barrier, because they will have a barrier up, you know, no matter who it is, they will have a guard up, even if it's family. And then you have your paraverbal communication, that's the tone, the pace, the pitch, the volume, the regulation of the conversation. Are you listening? Are you talking too much? Let them do more talking than you. And that command expectation as well. Imagine if. So I do this a lot. God, imagine if you just left that money in the bank eroding. Oh, imagine if inflation just keeps on rising, what that's going to do to your money in your bank. Oh, imagine if you didn't invest more money with me and you couldn't pay for that holiday every year. Oh, imagine if, that command expectation, that's very, very important. And obviously paraverbal, or, you know, again, it's when all of those things are in synergy and they're working together. And I do want to go just back to, for a second, like the power of tone. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So this is a bit of a strange one. I used to teach this actually when I taught A-level English language. Everything to do with tone is important. So I never said she stole the money. The power of tone here. If I placed emphasis on every different word here, I could change the whole meaning of a sentence. So if I emphasized I never said she stole the money. It implies it wasn't me, it was somebody else. If I place emphasis on the word never, I never said she stole the money. So I've never said it at all. Or I never said she stole the money. 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 Or I never said she stole the money. So just the power of tone, emphasizing different words in a sentence, can change the whole meaning of a sentence. So the power of your tone when you are selling is so important. And again, thinking about how you can apply that to your property business, whether you're sourcing, whether you're trying to get deals, whether you're direct to vendor, whether you are trying to raise finance, whether you're negotiating with an estate agent, somebody's fees and so on, the power of your tone can actually be make or break. But again, using the verbal, the paraverbal, the non-verbal, all three of them in synergy together, it triggers an emotional process for the person you're communicating with. But I will say you can develop and learn this over time in every aspect of communication. You know, all of those three will be active if you are a very skilled communicator. And practice with different people. They don't know you're practicing. So again, another quote here. Sorry, I really do love a quote. The art of communication is the language of business. If you have good communication skills, this can make you money. Okay, we can turn our communication into money. And that's not to say we're going to be ripping people off or we're manipulating people or persuading people, but good communicators get deals done, whatever that looks like. And I will say that we communicate best when we don't actually say anything at all and we actively listen to people. Active listening is part of communication. And I might actually do another free Zoom on that because it's so important. But again, all part and parcel of emotional intelligence. So, with that in mind, I'm going to start now and tell you the conversational technique that I did promise. So it's something it's a technique that I call the bridging technique. Okay, not bridging loans. Even though I think I'm maxed out on all the loans I could possibly have in one week already. It was a bridge everything. So not bridging loans. It's understanding a bridging technique. So the bridging technique that you can use this when you are wanting to talk to somebody about property, but you don't know how to get to that point in the conversation. It's about steering the conversation to your preferred topic. Okay. And this basically can help people. You can create awareness of your business. And by doing this communication technique, this has actually helped me raise finance. Because as I said at the beginning, we want everybody talking about what we do. We want people mentioning our names in rooms full of opportunities. And this is why I talk about property with every single person I meet. And I can attribute this number one conversational skill. I can probably attribute this to me raising finance, to getting clients for my beginner property course, to getting clients for my leadership programs and my team programs that I run as well, and my social media ones. So it's where we steer the conversation to what we want to talk about. And this is something that actually politicians use. It's a popular technique used in the media. And it's a technique that you can use to make your point and talk about what you want to talk about, regardless of the topic of conversation. Okay. And obviously, it depends on the topic of conversation. We've got to be very mindful. It depends on what you're talking about. If somebody's saying that they're ill, and poorly, we don't want to go, oh, I'm really sorry about that. But, I've just bought a house. We don't want to, we've got to be really conscious and sensitive. But this is something that you can practice as you go. So it's when we basically are in a conversation with something that is completely unrelated to property, and then we steer it to property. It's as simple as that. Okay. Few things, and I'm going to teach you how to do it now, but there are a few things to be mindful of. Again, the appropriateness of it. You've got to know your audience, and you don't want to necessarily be evasive in the sense that you don't want to not acknowledge what the other person is talking about. Okay, sometimes you're going to have to not bridge the conversation to your preferred topic. And sometimes you have to admit that some things are very hard to explain to people who just don't understand. So, for example, some of my friends now who are very supportive of what I do, I just don't talk. They know what I do, but I just don't talk about property with them because I've just learned that it's absolutely pointless. But that's not to say they don't know about what I'm up to, and that's not to say they wouldn't talk about me in rooms full of other people. And it's about, you've got to really know your shit as well. You've got to know what you're talking about if you're talking about property. And you've got to have a really strong sense of self-awareness, I believe. I think your emotional intelligence is key here to know how you are coming across. So how do you do it? Well, it's very simple. A, B, C, D, D, maybe. So when you're in the conversation with somebody, okay, no matter what they're talking about, you acknowledge whatever they're talking about, you acknowledge their question, you acknowledge their statement. It shows that you're listening to them and you value it. And then you move to B, the bridging. And this is a phrase that you might use to signal the change of direction into talking about property. You cover what you want to say, you cover your key points concisely, and then you do one of two things. You then dangle a carrot in front of them and give them something interesting to make them ask more questions, or you divert back to the original topic. And I'm going to tell you how I've done it in the past. Okay. So my neighbour, Linda, bless her, lives next door. This was ages ago, because I've been teaching this technique for quite some time now. I was doing, it was during lockdown actually. I was actually growing my own veg in the garden. I was like, we were doing the garden up. And we had ivy on our adjoining fences. We had ivy growing up the fence, basically. And we were like, right, how are we going to sort this out without damaging the fence? So Linda started talking about the ivy. She was, and this is her topic here, which you can see on the left. She was saying, oh God, what are we going to do, Steph, about this ivy growing up the garden fence? It's a nightmare. It's damaging the fence. Colin, who lived there before you, he absolutely loved the ivy. You know, we need to blame him. So I was thinking, okay, and this is, again, without trying to be exploitative with being ethical, but I was thinking, Linda's a pensioner, and she's on her own. She has no mortgage. She has a lot of inheritance when her husband died 10 years ago. She lives a life of luxury. She's probably got a bit of money in the bank. So Linda was always in my mind as a potential angel investor. Okay, so whenever I talk to Linda, and she hasn't invested yet, but I still talk to her about this. But whenever I talk to her, I'm like, right, I need to talk about property here, because she does ask about my business. She really does ask about it. Sometimes I'm like, is she interested? Is she not? So I acknowledged her. Okay, so I acknowledge the question, I acknowledge the statement, shows I'm listening and I'm valuing it. So I'm like, oh my God, I know, Linda. It's so destructive. I'm just as sick of it as you are. What on earth was Colin thinking? Colin's the guy who had the house before me. But then I'm going to start the bridge. So I've done the A, now I need to do the B. I'm going to start the bridge. That's the phrase that signals I'm changing direction. So I don't really want to talk about the ivy. I want to talk about property. So my topic is that this is what I want to talk about. I've just raised another 20 grand to fund the next refurb. Okay, so she's talking about the ivy. I really want to tell her that I'm raising money and I'm using other people's money for a 7% return or 10% return or whatever. Okay, that's from her topic. So how do I get there? Well, again, it's about listening and thinking, right, is it appropriate? And if it is, how can I bridge? What phrase can I use to change direction? And in this case, oh, do you know what? I've actually just had a home buyer survey back from one of my new houses that I'm buying. And then I'm going to go to the C. I'm going to cover my key points concisely. The wall is absolutely crawling with ivy, but do you know what? It's not a massive cost to remove it. The brickwork underneath might need looking at, but I've actually, I've got a contingency plan. I've taken into account there might be extra costs needed to do this. But thank God, I've just secured another 20 grand from a private investor. Now I'm going to dangle a carrot. Yeah, I'm giving them 7% over the year. So that's like 1,400 quid to put towards their cruise. So they're chuffed to bits with it. Anyway, Linda, do you need a hand with your garden? Do you want me to come round? And then she goes, oh, yeah, okay then. They don't do that in the back. And that's how you do it. And it's, in theory, it's simple. But I do this with absolutely everybody. And this is what I teach anybody who I'm doing beginner coaching with. So for example, 3 of my property clients who I do property coaching with, they've all, it must be the month for it, within February and March, over the past 4 weeks, all 3 of them have completed on a property. I don't know why. They've all completed at the same time. And they've also raised angel finance. One particular couple that I coach have absolutely smashed it. They've been trying to get their first property. It's been a bit of a slog for the past year, but they've just secured their first property. They've just raised 10 grand for a 10% return. But they have been talking about property since day dot. They talk about property. So one of my clients, she sells office furniture. She's a brilliant saleswoman in her job, but she actually finds it quite difficult to talk about property outside of it. So when she's talking to suppliers in her work, she's like, oh yeah, we can supply this furniture, that furniture. Oh, I've actually, speaking of furniture, I've actually just supplied myself with some furniture for my home office. Oh, what's your home office for? Oh, I've got a property business and we raise finance and da-da-da-da-da-da. So it's about finding that point where we can go, right, what aspect of our property business can I relate this to? Okay, so in this instance, how can I relate ivy climbing up the garden fence to the fact that I've just raised another 20K? Okay, so it's about acknowledging them, bridging the conversation, so changing that direction, covering the points concisely, dangling a carrot, and then diverting back. So you don't just leave it there. You go, okay, actually, oh yeah, but let's get back to the ivy. What shall we do about it? So then you're still acknowledging them, and you're not saying, actually, I'm going to stop talking about you altogether. This is about having the awareness and the emotional intelligence to go back to that original point. Engage it as well. If they're not interested in what you're talking about, doesn't mean you never talk about it again. But this is a very simple conversation technique. It's so, so simple. If you do this with everybody you come into contact with, everybody soon knows that you use other people's money or you do property. Every single person, if you want to be successful in property, whether you're buying houses, sourcing deals, direct to vendor, negotiating, whatever you are doing, if you want to be successful in any aspect of property, every single person you come into contact with needs to know what you do. Because of this, I had and this was about 4 years ago now when I was still in education, I had a caretaker stop me in the corridor when I was on the way to my next lesson and say, oh, I've got about 80 grand in premium bonds, Steph. Can you do something with that? And it's because I use this technique every time I come into contact with somebody. Again, is it appropriate? I wasn't in the middle of lessons talking to everybody about what I was doing in the staff room. Oh, what you got up to this weekend, Paul? Oh, well, I went fishing, didn't I? You know, I like doing a bit of fishing. Oh, amazing. Oh my God, I know such and such who does fishing. Oh, do you know such and such from in the village? No. Oh, he's just invested with us, 66 grand. Oh, I thought you knew him. Anyway, what's your favourite fish, Paul? You know, and you go back to that original conversation. And I keep it really casual. Again, it's about this going back to your communication style, that style of speech, super casual. The casual is what can sell when it comes, because people feel relaxed when you are casual. Now, one thing I do want to say is this, what I call dangling the carrots, okay? There's a few things that you can also do when you're dangling carrots that's not to do with this conversational technique, but I will go through them. What do these dangling carrots look like? If you're not necessarily thinking, I can't quite build up to this conversational technique and I can't quite bring myself to do this ABCD bridging technique yet, how else can you get information in front of people? Okay, deal flyers. I used to create deal flyers. So it'd be a one-pager, A4. It would be something that I'm looking at buying or I've had offer accepted on and I need to raise finance. And it would literally have in big writing at the top, 50 grand for 10% return. It'd have a picture of the house, purchase, refurb, and value. And I would have them everywhere. And I mean everywhere. I used to walk down the corridor in school knowing I was going past the caretaker or other people, and I would drop them. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm really sorry. I'm going to put that back on my file. I would put them on the dashboard of my car. If people were getting into my car, I'd put them on the coffee table. My office never used to be upstairs. I used to have part of my dining table and dining room as my office, and the window cleaner, who as I've also is in my angel pipeline, because he wants to invest as well. My window cleaner clocked it and he was like, oh, what's that? And I thought, oh, you nosy so-and-so. He saw all the maps on the pin boards and everything, got chatting to him. His nan wanted to invest, he wanted to invest. Again, having information everywhere, okay? If you can't bring it up in conversation, what else can you ask people to do? Proofread. Oh, I've just put this business plan together. You know, would you do me a favor? I really value your opinion. Would you mind proofreading this for me? You're not actually asking them to proofread. Some will bring it back with red pen all over, which some people have done for me. Some people hand it back and go, oh, I'm quite interested in that. I say dropping bombs as well, social media, which obviously we're going to talk about as well. You know, dropping bombs. I talk about holidays as well. Oh, you're going on holiday this year? Oh yeah, I'm going to, I don't know, going on a cruise. Oh, amazing. One of my investors has just got back from a cruise that I paid for, by the way. Anyway, how was it? And it's bringing it into that conversation, but not overtly, not too overtly, not too salesy, not too explicitly. You're going on holiday? Yes, I am. Oh God, yeah, my investor's chuffed to bits. He gets 3 grand a year and I pay for his holiday for him and his family. Absolutely loves it. Anyway, where are you going? Again, my style of speech, super casual. And again, the body language, the facial expressions, just really, really casual. I never try to present like any level of authority with people when I'm talking about property, because for people who aren't in property as well, it can be very difficult for them to even open up and talk about money. So again, no level of authority. Yeah, I do a bit of property, I use other people's money, it's going really well. If do you want to have a chat, that's fine. Shopping as well. What do you get up to at the weekend? Oh yeah, I just spent the weekend with the kids. What did you get up to? I was shopping for smelly houses, I was per. Anyway, where did you go with the kids? Again, bridging it to what I want to talk about and back to their conversation. And when you divert it back to their conversation and their first original point, that is when they go, oh, well, yeah, we went here, we went there. What do you mean shopping for smelly houses? So you're dangling carrots all the time. And lastly, introductory fees. It encourages people to talk about you. So, for example, if anybody signs up with Bluestone Key on the basic property beginners course, because of somebody else's referral, that they will get 250 quid or whatever it is off me. So it encourages people to talk about you when you are not showing up on social media, when you're not right there in front of them. You know, it can be the same for houses. If they introduce you to somebody who's selling a house and you buy it, give that person a fee. You don't necessarily, they don't have to be sourcing compliant for an introductory fee. So these carrots all the time can help. So in this instance, the carrot that I'm dangling is I'm saying, oh yeah, the investor got 7%. Anyway, let's have a chat about this fence. What can we do about it? Okay. But I could also say anything to do with the investor. Oh yeah, you know, just secured an investor, pays for their holiday every year. Where are you going on holiday, Linda? Have you got anything booked this year? Or, you know, you're going back to Mallorca with Mary over the road. And again, it's just sowing, like I said at the beginning, it's sowing those seeds. Okay. Somebody is sitting in the shade of a tree today because somebody sowed that seed long ago. And remember, I said at the beginning, it's about that long term, sort of a longer ROI. You will see a return on your investment by using these strategies. You won't see an immediate return because it's about sowing those seeds, but you sow those seeds now, they come back to you later. I've had people call me. It's the same with estate agents. Everybody needs to know what you do. I've had estate agents who I haven't dealt with for like 3 or 4 years call me and say, you're still on our books. I know you're a cash buyer. I know you put offers in on XYZ properties. Are you interested in this, that, and the other? Yeah, because you know what I do. You know that I'm good for it. And you know I buy cash. You know, I've had people ring me and say, you know, I've seen an email, I've just seen this on social media. Can we have a little bit of a chat about it? It's about sowing seeds everywhere. Everybody in your orbit should know what you do, okay? Even if you are not at the stage of you haven't even bought your first property yet, it doesn't matter. You are a professional property investor, you buy houses. And this number one conversation technique ensures that I speak to everybody about property, no matter whether they already know what I'm doing or not. I speak to the same people every week. I will talk about property with those people. You know, I'm reminding them, they already know what I do. You know, they know what I do, but I'm reminding them I'm there, I'm giving high returns. I'm beating the banks. Okay, I don't have the same safety net as the bank, but I'm beating them nonetheless. Okay. And it's building up that know, like, and trust. You've got to build, they've got to know who you are, they've got to like you. And when they know and like you, then you can start to build that trust. But again, this is the number one conversational technique. So just to recap, again, it's not always going to be appropriate. Practice makes better, not perfect. And emotional intelligence is key here. So you've got to have a really strong sense of self-awareness, self-perception to know how you are coming across to people. Practice makes better, not perfect. You can practice this with anybody. And the beauty of it is they will not even know that you are practicing this. They will not even know that you are having a go. So you basically can't mess it up because they will never know that you are practicing this technique. Okay. So again, I would challenge anybody now, anybody watching this, even in the recording, have a go at this and make it. And I would challenge you actually, if you do this, I want you to make it a challenge, at least 20 people that you speak to in a week. Those 20 people, tell them what you do. Make sure that you practice this bridging technique, because this, again, it's about that long-term ROI. Sow the seeds now, and this will come back to you later. And I can actually promise you that, because this, I am proof. I am proof that this works. So we've probably invested in the region, not millions, not like some property people, because we've built our own capital and we have invested it. And I do believe that's important, particularly when you put in deposits down and things like that. We have done 100% purchase with angel money. It's a little bit trickier. There's a few hoops to jump through, but this works, and this has probably helped us raise. I think we're nearly up to like $500,000. It's a lot of money. We've paid some of it. We paid a lot of it back as well, but we still have we have investors in that are, they're in for 5 years. We've got investors in for 5 years, fixed rate. And again, it's because I've done this. It's because my partner Phil does this where he works. One of our investors is one of Phil's old managers. He's seen, and because Phil talks about it, rightly or wrongly, and everybody that he comes across knows what he does, because he uses this conversation technique. And then what happens is you get people coming up to you going, "Hey Steph, how's property going?" And they just start asking you then, because they see you, they know you, and they see what you're doing. So hopefully this has been a very quick crash course in a conversational technique, but I can absolutely guarantee that if you do this, you will see a long-term ROI. But again, it's about being very, very aware of how you're coming across. Go away, think about the conversation. How could you have bridged it if you don't quite get it right? It's about that self-reflection, and self-reflection is absolutely key for every business owner anyway. So are there any questions? Because that's the end.
Yeah, thanks for that, Stephanie. It's really good. You were saying that with this bridging, so basically you're steering a conversation to where you want it to go. Would that have, so that would what was I going to say? I can't think of the words. Ironic, considering we're in a communication webinar. Yeah, so for me, I'm looking to, because I don't own any property myself, even though I've done courses and I used to be an estate agent. I'll be looking to do sourcing and maybe looking at deal packaging and building that track record and credibility. So you could use this bridging technique, as you call it, to sort of like find investors for deals. Is that right? Do I hear that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I've used this a lot to try and get the word out there that I use other people's money, because effectively we had our own capital. We released equity from our home twice. Now the mortgage rates have shot up. It doesn't seem like such a good idea now, but it's helped us. We've acquired property from that. But then we knew that, well, when we run out of our own money, we're going to need other people's money, friends, family, whoever. And our investors aren't high net worth investors. They're not people who are absolutely rolling in millions. These are just people that, and your first investors are always going to be people in your orbit. But for you, if your aim is to source properties, well, you've got to. So my job is find the deal, raise the cash. Your job is find the deal, find the investor. So you need to. So, and again, for sourcing, for me, and I've bought plenty of source deals. For me, I prefer to buy a source deal from a sourcing agent. I'm happy if they've got a great relationship with estate agents, which means that we get the deal before it goes to market. I'm happy to buy a deal that way. I'm happy if they've got a great relationship in that we get the deal way below market value. But for me, if I'm working with a sourcing agent, I want to get direct to vendor. I want that source. I want to be buying properties that are not on the market. There's no estate agent involved, so we can get a really good negotiated deal. Now, if I was you and I'm trying to do this bridging technique, you need to basically tell everybody that you can find buyers for their houses. You've obviously got to build that database. So you're saying, right, okay, so my preferred topic is I want to raise finance, but your preferred topic, I'm assuming, would be I find buyers for houses. That's for the vendors. So vendors, I can find you a buyer, and we can pay cash or whatever it is. But then on the other hand, you've also got to let other investors know, I can find you off-market deals direct to vendor. So I imagine they're your two preferred topics of conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. So in that instance, it's about when you're at a networking event. Okay, so it's a bit of a double-edged, I don't know, double-edged sword is the right phrase here to use, but it's a bit of a, you've almost got like two other, so you've got two jobs there at a networking event, haven't you? It's like, yeah, okay, I need to find the deals, but I also need to build a database of investors. And I'm a direct to vendor is a whole strategy in itself anyway, isn't it? It's a very lengthy strategy. It's this is lots and lots to direct to vendor. But if you know that if you're doing your leafleting, your posting and things like that, then it's working for you in the background. But it's also about telling everybody that you know that you do that as well, because there will be people in your orbit who need to sell a house at some point. So as an example, so one of my property coaching clients, they were struggling to raise finance, and again, you've got to sow those seeds because it will come later on. Struggling to raise finance, not really posting on social media, so I thought, well, you're not telling enough people what you're doing. But they were telling people in so much in conversations, this is what I do, and I'm still looking for my first investment property. Somebody that they worked with, their dad had died, and they'd inherited a property. So I said, this perfect, not perfect, that sounds awful, but perfect. Okay, they've inherited a property, and they just so happen to know you. Is this an opportunity now where you could do an assisted sale? If you can't buy the property, can we raise the finance, do the refurb? They sell the property, they get what they want, you get your refurb money back plus the profit. But it was about, and I said, right, so you need to approach this person. Oh, they don't really know what I do. And I'm like, yeah, because you're not talking about it enough. So, there's opportunities everywhere. It doesn't have to just be at networking events to build a pipeline of investors, to build, a database of people who could potentially sell you the properties for you to sell to investors, if that makes sense. There are people who are going to be in your orbit that will have properties to sell. I think it's trickier for sourcing agents because, especially if you're working with estate agents as well, you've got so much to communicate to so many different people. And I think that the challenge is, especially if you're getting them through estate agents, how can you sell it to the estate agents that you've got a buyer, even if you don't have a buyer? The communications.
I know. It is. I mean, I do want to eventually raise investor finance. I do, and you said you're working on an actual property course that does that. I think that would be an ideal course for me, because, I mean, I'm not a great, well, I don't think anyone is, and I've had to force myself to say I like social media. So what I've been doing is I digress, but I've started doing some reels on social media. So I've been doing not directly about property, but like networking, because I've been to a lot of networking events. I still prefer personally face-to-face networking event, but I get what you're saying with this technique, this bridging technique. The question I've got, and maybe you've been asked this question many times, with sourcing, is it better to get the investor first or the deal, or try and get both of them at the same? Because like you said, I didn't realize about this challenge that if I'm getting if I could approach direct to vendors and then cut the estate agent out, which seems a bit bad, but cut that out, then all I need to do is get the investor for the deal.
Yeah,
for the vendor. But if like you said, if I'm dealing with estate agents, then there's another party involved. So I was just thinking, would this technique still work with estate agents, or is it?
You know what? So after the state, so for me, it's about what problems can you solve. So for me, I'm like, if you've got money in the bank, I can give you better money than the bank's giving you. I can give you higher interest. I'm solving that problem. So with estate agents, it's like, what problem can you solve? If the property, and if you are going to be a sourcing agent, I think we're digressing a bit, but if you are going to source and you're going to do that via estate agents, what problems can you solve for the estate agents? So think about, right, okay, let's say and you want to be looking maybe at properties that are, you can spot a distressed transaction, you can spot a distressed property. You know, it could be that they've reduced their price, you know, completely reduced, and you're thinking, right, well, they obviously need to sell quick. So with estate agents, it's like, well, actually, I can solve a problem for you here. What if you know, so their topic is, we need to sell this house for, you know, whatever. Well, my topic is, well, what if I can actually get a buyer for you? Would that be something that you're interested in? Now, a lot of estate agents, even now, from my opinion, they don't understand sourcing. They don't know what it is. A lot of
They
them
don't understand very many of the property strategies.
No, they don't. They don't get it.
I know they don't. He's trying to educate them.
Yeah. And estate agents don't like to be educated because they know best. So it's about communicating it in a way. And again, going back to this, sort of again, the crash course, styles of speech. So again, my style of speech, this sounds ridiculous, but if I walk into a networking event, I'm the thickest person in the room. I'm like, I don't know anything. What's your opinion? What do you think? And I do exactly the same with estate agents. And I'm like, do you know what? What if I could get a buyer for you? Yeah, again, style of speech, bit of a, what do you think about this? What if? And it's sort of like the tentative movements. Do you
Yeah.
know what? What if I could actually get a buyer for you? And again, the tone. I actually have a pipeline of people dying for this house. And it's casual, it's persuasive. What if imagine if I got a buyer for you? And it's sometimes I'm a bit cheeky with it as well. It depends on who it is. And because we've done sourcing in the past, you know, it's not something I want to do anymore. In fact, it's something I don't do.
Well, I like yourself. I want to use that as a way to build my track record, because I wish I owed some. I mean, my parents have got a joint property, and with my father not well, I don't know if I told you a story. They own that property, but they're half and half. And because he's in a nursing home at the moment, I'm trying to see if I can, because he hasn't got the mental capacity to do anything. Unfortunately, he fell down about 2.5 years. It's a long story, but anyway, I wanted to take that half of the property, but I don't want them to sell that property, because then we're going to get hit with capital gains tax, and it's very complicated. It sounds simple, but it's very complicated. So I thought to myself, well, okay, what skills do I have, and how can I get back in? How can I? Because I'm not a great fan of rent to rent. I know a lot of people do rent to rent, and and now the landlords are. I know we're digressing a bit, but so I was sitting there thinking, okay, what's the closest thing I could do to them? Because eventually I want to do other strategies like you're doing, like, you know, buy to lets and all of that, but I don't have the deposit and I don't have the money to do it. And so, and I looked at lease options as well. I was looking at that, and it still doesn't resonate with me. The only one out of the three where I know there's no such thing as no money down, but let's say low money down, is a sourcing. So I want to use that as a foot in. And then once I get that traction or get the clients, because once they say, if I made, like you said, you get investors, because you'll say, well, why leave your money in the bank earning nothing, where I can earn you at least 7%. Even if they get 5%, they're getting better return on their account. And I know there's loads of people doing sourcing. I know that it's a crowded market. I get that, but I think every technique is there. My point being is, I'm trying to use that as a foot in the way. I mean, if I had my own money, I would invest, but you know, it's just a bit. I just feel sometimes a bit frustrated, because I know I've got those skills, and I think this is why where your course will probably help me, because I'm not always aware of what I'm not always, because like you said earlier, when you're giving out a message or you're receiving the message, there's some sort of disconnect, and maybe then that's where the where the miscommunication lies. And I think also this course will really help me when I'm dealing with difficult people, because you do always get the one where you have a personality. It's I wish I'd done a course, and I lost my job because I fell out with one of the managers. Let's just say we didn't get on, which is probably being very what's it the word very subtle in that way. But I just thought to myself, well, look, I'm not working at the moment, so while I'm looking for something else, I am looking for something else. It has been tough, I won't lie. I want to this is what I want to do, and then I want to use that to do the other strategies eventually. So like I'd like to do flips and BRR, looking at essays and possibly HMOs. But like I said, I've got to start somewhere. So you know, I hope this makes sense.
No, it does. Can I make a suggestion? I know going off a little bit of communication here. But my suggestion, the thing is with sourcing, I think it's brilliant. But you do need a hell of a lot of shoe leather on the ground. You need to be networking your arse off. For me, it was the time. What we started to look into, and it did work, was it's really hard to sell deals to investors like me who it makes the national news when I do the due diligence on the property. They send me a deal and I'm like, nah, tear it apart. No, I'm not paying. I'm not having it. Like I do really pull the deals apart, and they've got to be shit hot for me to be able to go, yes, I'm going to pay for that. But when we started looking at sourcing, we couldn't sell deals to investors because they do what I do, and that's great because it means they know what they're doing. So we started looking into, right, okay, well, if we don't sell deals to investors, because all investors, we want cash flow, because that's what I want. I want cash flow. I want lots of money to be able to do what I want, to sack my boss, which is what happened. But what if you could market and there'll be people on Wealth Labs, and I know there are, who teach sourcing, and I know they're very good and they're much more experienced than me, so they might say something different. But what if you could source to people who have got a job, they're quite happy, they're not looking to start property businesses, they just want to tot up their pension pot?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, that's I was looking into that actually.
I
I'm not looking for the multimillionaires to invest at the moment, because they're going to look at me and say, you know, and I've had this in the past. I'm looking for, like you said, in around my orbit, for want of a better word. So someone maybe's got 25 or maybe 50,000, yeah, around that, to build up on that, because that's, like I said, that is, you know, is it fools, friends, and family. At the moment, my family can't give me the money, and I wouldn't really want to ask them, but maybe, like you said, within my network. But no, no, no. I'm like I said, I'm always open to. I never say to myself, "Oh well, I know more than some," because I don't. This is one of the reasons I'm on this webinar, because I want to learn to be better and be able to attract the right sort of investor. Because, like you said, there are a lot of people doing it, and it is hard. It's hard work. I get that. I get that, but I think it's, and I'm not saying the training, in fact, I got no training when I was an estate agent. I was literally thrown in the deep end, and I looked like a moron on my first property because I kept saying this is this, and I didn't know what I was talking about. So and I don't want to feel that the same way with an investor, you know. But I'm using this as a stepping stone to other strategies. That's what I'm looking. Yeah.
Absolutely. And do you know what? A lot of people source as well because they go, do you know what? I want to build up my experience in property, especially before I buy my first one. I'm learning as I go. And I think a lot of people think, oh, how can I source if I don't have my investment properties? But it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, for me, I don't give a shit. If someone puts a deal in front of me and it adds up, I'm paying for that deal and I'm having it. I mean, I've bought source deals off people who don't have any properties themselves, but they're sourcing day in, day out, and I trust them. They've done the due diligence, they know what they're doing. But I've had people put deals in front of me that are absolutely awful, and I'm like, well, I'm not the type of investor you should be working with. I think it's important to think, you can't. Whilst I think communication, leadership, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, negotiating, all of that's important, but also just forgive yourself for just being human as well. If you think, oh, I've really got to learn about this and this is really important, don't want to mess it up. No one knows that if you mess anything up, because only you have a strategy in your head. Only I've got to use the verbal, the non-verbal, the paraverbal, the paralinguistics, the tone, then this and that. No one else is thinking what you're thinking. No one else knows that you are trying to communicate effectively. Nobody knows you're trying to use the bridging technique. It's practice makes you better, not perfect. It's and just again, I think the thing that has won things from, the thing that has worked for me the most, yes, communication, self-awareness, the leadership, all of that. Yes, I can solve problems for people, and that's, that's helped, but it's also just trying to create wins. If I win, great. It's got to be a win-win. It can't.
Yes, yeah, no, it's like you said, you got to be able to look at each one as an individual case, and there may be some people that you can't help, and if you can't help them, you tell them, look, I'm sorry, I can't help you because of such and that, and they probably respect you, but they're just trying to flog a deal to them. No, I get that. I get that. Actually, this I've never heard of this paraverbal. Is that always been there? I've heard of verbal and non-verbal, but it's the first time I've heard of paraverbal.
I think the paraverbal, I mean, the tone, pitch, pace, volume, sometimes people put within the verbal. But yeah, there's the paraverbals, like, or everything. And it's the sort of, it can be sort of like, again, the regulation of the conversation, who's speaking more, who's listening more, and the pace of the conversation, the back and forth. And again, that command expectation. Oh God, imagine if I could actually get you some properties without you having to go and speak to an estate agent. Imagine if I could find somebody to buy that house for you and you don't even have to worry about it. You don't have to pay estate agent fees, and it's putting that sort of, again, what problem are you solving? Again, there's so much to this. I could talk for weeks. Weeks on communication. I absolutely love it.
No, I think it's one of the most important things because like you said, without the communication, you can't go to the next stage, whether it's negotiation or attracting an investor or selling deals or whatever. You can't get it's paramount, basically. It's that vital. It's that vital. So yeah.
It's the working now, learning how to do this effectively. And I wouldn't say that I'm the most skilled communicator all of the time either, which is a bit ironic given that I'm an English teacher.
I'd say you've done very well for today, because
thank you. I feel like when I get on a roll, I'm like, I'm really fast, but that's just my brain sometimes works quicker.
No, it's like I said, it's been a very interesting, informative, and insightful. I really like the word webinar. I really say like workshop. I prefer the workshop sort of thing.
I would like to do,
because that's what I think it is.
It is. Well, I'm going to leave it there, but again, just a reminder, I think you can join. I'm going to do a bit of marketing, and obviously I'm pretty good at this. And again, we're looking at we're putting together now the property fundamentals with the leadership, with the social media, and it's going to be a complete full course so that you can go out and market yourselves with the leadership skills, with the business skills, and the property skills, and then obviously how to handle objections. But I think you'll be able to apply this to objections with other people in your business. Maybe you might be able to apply it with estate agents, and you might be able to apply it with angels, you might be able to apply it with potential other investors as well. And again, I've never not been able to sell. Even though I don't class myself.
No, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
I don't feel like I'm salesy at all, though.
No, that's the thing. You see, the way you come across, it's